Hey everyone, and welcome to So What, the Marketing Analytics and Insights live show from Trust Insights. I'm Katie, joined by Chris and John. I'm wearing my festive Happy Halloween shirt because we are now in October. Um, Today we are covering video SEO. And so essentially, what we want to talk through is that YouTube, if you're posting videos on YouTube as part of your content strategy, it's essentially its own search engine, and it's often an overlooked opportunity for really good SEO. And so Chris is going to walk us through some of the tips and tricks and best practices for SEO optimizing your videos on YouTube. So Chris, take it away.
All right. So our good friends at YouTube, at Google, as everyone is well aware, it is the largest video site in the world. If you're going to optimize for video, this is a place to do it. It is the second largest search engine in the world. And our goals as marketers are to be found, right, for the right things, to attract subscribers, and ultimately to drive our subscribers to places that we care about, because we don't want them to stay on YouTube. We do want them to go and do other things. The big thing that people don't realize about YouTube is just how sophisticated its engine is behind the scenes. When you go to the YouTube homepage, right, and just pop this open, and within seconds, what happens is that YouTube makes a whole bunch of recommendations. Hey, look, there I am. I'm live right now. It makes a whole bunch of recommendations. How does it know? How does YouTube know what's going on behind the scenes and make these decisions so darn fast?
That sounds almost like a conspiracy theory. Like, how does it know?
Well, it's not a conspiracy theory, because Google has told us, YouTube has outright told us, here's how it works. The challenge is, for a lot of marketers, it's not written in plain, easy to understand language. This is a paper published in 2016, still relevant, about the engine behind YouTube, the deep neural network that powers this thing. And they don't get into the exact code and parameters. Obviously, that's their secret sauce. But they do outline the model of what it is that makes YouTube tick. If you want to get a copy of this, it is in Google Research, which, by the way, is one of those hidden secrets that, again, not nearly enough people pay attention to. Google publishes like all kinds of academic research, all the stuff that they're working on. And they're, in some cases, telegraphing months or years before changes go live. Hey, here's a technology that we think is pretty cool. In this paper, what they show you, let's scroll down here to the network map, is how YouTube works. There's 2 layers of filtering, and all of this happens within milliseconds of you loading the YouTube homepage or typing something in. And without getting into the technical stuff, what we see is there are there's a series of decision factors here. One is what's called the watch vector. And this is based on your watch history, the things that you've watched in the past, right? So it can be, I'll pull this up here again. You can see, just based on what's being shown here, the kinds of things that I've been watching recently. I've been watching videos of presidential debates and things. I've watched episodes of the Hot Ones show, which is terrific. I watch a lot of Stephen Colbert. So we have that watch vector. If you are marketing and you're trying to attract certain types of people to your videos, you better know what else they watch. Right? You better know, like, what other things are they interested in. Then there is the search vector. And the search vector is what they've typed into YouTube in the past. Now, this is where natural language processing gets all kinds of involved. To look at all the different ways that you could type in a search phrase, and YouTube assembles that. There's some geography stuff, and then there's some demographic characteristics. And this happens within seconds to generate candidates. And these are the candidates here. Like, these are the things that YouTube thinks, hey, I think if I show you these things, you're probably going to watch it. In the paper, what YouTube says it optimizes for is watch time. They want your eyeballs on YouTube as long as possible. And so when you look at this algorithm and this neural network map, understand that it's optimized to say, YouTube wants us on site more. First little tip: if your video is 10 hours long, you're not going to get there's not a whole lot of watch time involved in that, right? So we want to keep things, a little bit less than than massive. And if you are comfortable inside YouTube's analytics for your channel, one of the things that it tells you exactly how long it is that people watch. Where's the drop off points for any given video, to know, yeah, sometimes our engagement is not great. So this is on my channel. Here's the watch times. 15 hours on this video. Let's see, go here. Let's go into how to use Google Analytics and engagement. And there's the audience retention. You can see as long as the video is, people get really to about the 3-minute mark, and then we just lose them after that point. So you want to spend some time on your videos. If you find that not a single one of your videos gets more than 14 minutes of watch time, guess what? You've just found how long your video should be. There are exceptions to this rule. There are some people who make YouTube videos, 10 hours of something that's on repeat constantly, and that's its own little thing. But our goal as marketers, again, based on this paper, is to get to completion, get people to the end of the video. So if you have a choice between a 20-minute video and a 10-minute video, consider the 10-minute version. A/B test it, but consider the 10-minute version. So that's the first thing. Second thing, again, this is all embedded search tokens. The way this works in natural language processing is there's text that's available within any given video. What is that text? Well, there's the title, there is the description of the video, there are tags that are going to video, and then there's the secret weapon, the part that everybody forgets, and that is closed captions. If you are not loading closed captions to your videos, you're missing a huge part of the text that you could be providing to Google to say, hey, pay attention to this video. YouTube, for some languages, will attempt its own closed captions. They are terrible. They are terrible. You read the captions, you turn on the closed captions, you start watching, you're like, ugh, that's not even close to what I said, or that actually came out as obscene. So to the extent possible, you want to provide your own closed captioning. The service that we use is a service called Otter. If you go to trustinsights.ai/Otter, you can get like a month free if you want to try it out. And the thing that makes it so valuable for your company is this jargon. We all have weird things that we say. And in this tool in particular, it allows us to put in our jargon so that it correctly recognizes those terms when we're saying them and gets them right in the closed captions. And that's the secret. You get it right in the closed captions. And then if somebody's typing in like, auto ML model into YouTube search, it's going to be a much better match than, auto space M space L, which is not the same thing. So by using a good closed captioning tool, you're able to really land on that part of this YouTube algorithm. You can't do much about geographic stuff, but with age and gender, one of the things to pay attention to, go into your Google Analytics for your website and look at the age and gender of that's in there, because that's, again, data that Google has that it's going to apply to your videos. If the people who are on YouTube are demographically very different than the people that are on your Google Analytics, you're going to get different video performance, and you're probably not going to get the right people because your audience is very different. So, any questions or thoughts or comments on the super technical stuff first?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, it makes my head spin a little bit. But basically, it sounds like, and let me see if I'm getting this correct, Chris, that in order to have a really good, successful video on YouTube, you should understand, the audience that you're trying to reach. You should have, your basic SEO checklist of the title, the captions, the tags, those kinds of things. But then also the length of the video, it's going to depend on, if it's that 10-hour, looping thing, or, using your own analytics, at what point do people drop off? And maybe that's your target linked for a video. Is that sort of the basics of what you just described in a very technical way?
It is. And actually, one of the things I want to highlight here, Oz says the retention measure is way more complicated. How long should a video be? YouTube's reporting this stuff is stupid. Your best bet. Well, Oz is an Excel god. Like, he's literally a Microsoft MVP in Excel. One of the best bets is to actually go into YouTube's analytics and export the data into Excel, and then do all the averaging and stuff in there, because it's just a pain. But yeah, so those are the basics. So let's talk about how do we address these things from a technical perspective. First, obviously, do the basics, right? Do the title, the description, the tags, the closed captioning. Do that well. With your videos, do clear preview images, right? A lot of you'll see a lot of folks like here. There's absolutely no doubt what that video is about, because the image is very, very clear. There's no doubt what this video is about, because it's very clear. Some of these other things, it's not quite clear what the video is about. And so if you're trying to get from this first impression to getting someone to click, having something that you can see on screen, like, okay, I get what this video is about, attracts the audiences. So preview images is a really important thing to have there. And then spend some time in your YouTube analytics. Again, I don't love the YouTube analytics interface itself. I think it is overly simplistic, but the thing that makes it super, super useful is that, there's an advanced mode. And then once you're in there, you can start to customize the report, and you can start putting together all the different data points that you could possibly want. And you can see these are all the ones that are accessible, and you can export this out as a CSV file or an Excel file or whatever. If you want to get really fancy, you can plug into YouTube's API and pull all this data in yourself. But the thing that to pay attention to more than anything else is look at what videos of yours do well, and then try to figure out why. Like, are there specific topics, or specific things that, like, yeah, this video did really, really well, and I don't know why, or this video did really, really well, and it's not something that's relevant anymore. When I look at the recent views, this one is a video that actually I need to take down and redo, because it's 3 years old. This was a product review for a hot Amazon product at the time, and that product sucked. That's one of the reasons why that video did well. This is a video from 10 years ago from a World of Warcraft. My channel's not about that anymore, which, by the way, thematically is something that if I wanted this YouTube channel to be like on target for, I should pull down stuff that isn't relevant anymore, that I don't want to be found for. And then we have things like the previous So What shows. So you can see all the stuff that's in here, and then start making those decisions about, have we attracted an audience on this channel? If so, what are the things that they seem to want? So that's the technical side. From a content side, YouTube it's an interesting creature, because they have this. The Google actually has a huge playbook. If you look at a YouTube creator playbook, is a fantastic document. If you have not read it, I strongly recommend spending a whole lot of time and maybe a bottle of wine with it. This is Google's consumer friendly version of here's how to build your YouTube strategy. One of the things that is really powerful in here is they have a framework. It's called Hero Hub Help. It's still the gold standard for a YouTube channel, for any content marketing, which is once a quarter or so, you have a big piece of content, something that is a video premiere. Like, this is your big conference or whatever, and you spend big ad dollars, spend a lot of time promoting it. Then you have stuff that's more regular, your monthly content. Maybe it's your what content, the hub, what's going on, what's new. And then you have your daily stuff, your help content. My channel, for example, is almost all help content. It's You Ask, I Answer. It's a daily show I do. And so it's much more focused on that. It's low budget. It is relatively low effort, but it's very frequent, and it's keyword rich. So that is an important part of the content. And then another huge part is looking at how people search. Oh, hey, Brian is even saying, is there a way in the tools to find out what search terms your videos are already ranking for? I don't know. We would have to look. to see if you can what you rank for. In terms of what you should be ranking for, there are a couple ways to do this. The easiest way, and the one that I'd say everybody and their cousin should be using, is Google Trends. Google Trends allows you, type in video marketing here, to look at what's trending, change the geography, and then specifically look at how much search volume occurs on YouTube. And this is where this is really, really helpful, because you can get you can get very clear guidance as to what's searched for on YouTube itself versus what's searched for generally. And it can differ. It can differ pretty substantially. Let me show you an example. This is pre-baked. I took a bunch of search terms. Here we can see them: marketing video, search YouTube, SEO, YouTube, etc. And this is Google search. And we can see how many searches on a regular basis there are for each of these terms. Let's smooth this out. This is kind of a little hard to see. Over the last few years, and we see, video marketing is YouTube marketing here, YouTube SEO. Originally, by the way, this show was going to be video SEO, but after I did this, I'm like, nope, we're calling this a video marketing episode, because it is clearly much more searched for. That's
you didn't give me the notice, Chris.
So we're an agile shop here.
Exactly. For tomorrow's blog post, that's what we're going to do.
Tomorrow's blog post, we have already changed our SEO. Noted.
Exactly. But when we look at that same data on YouTube, the keyword list got a lot shorter, right? Because these are just things that, people type in smaller, shorter search queries and fewer terms into YouTube. And the big one is, how do I clear my YouTube search history? So if you wanted to that said, if you wanted to create a video that would probably do well, align it with what we know is going to be searched for. So video marketing in here. Interestingly enough, though, it's been on a pretty slow decline over the past few years. So using tools like Google Trends, and you can either use the web interface, which I think is appropriate and fine for most marketers. There's also a way to do it programmatically through code, which will get you bigger data, but it's kind of a pain to do. And then spend some time in your SEO tools. To Brian's question, I know we've worked with TubeBuddy in the past, and if I recall quick, I don't believe even TubeBuddy had those rankings inside it either. We'd have to go look.
One is Tim Street just recently turned me on to Gospel, and I'm supposed to be talking with them over the next week. I've heard other people talk about them as a good trend and YouTube tracker. So maybe at a future date, we'll be able to throw out more on that stuff.
Yep. So that's part two. So we've covered the technical stuff that you need to do with YouTube videos, the content stuff itself, doing all the topic research. Treat it like any other content initiative, right? Treat it exactly like anything else. If you do the same research for your blog posts, for your white papers and ebooks and all that stuff, do it for YouTube. The third thing that people forget about with YouTube is the distribution side, and this is huge, because, again, remember this paper. This paper says that your watch history forms a substantial part of what gets served up. If I can get you to watch previous episodes of So What, then the likelihood that YouTube is going to recommend it the next time we do an episode is higher, because it's already in the algorithm. So if I can get your eyeballs onto something at all on my channel, that's going to help bring you back. So one of the things people don't do nearly enough is cross promote. They don't cross promote on other social networks. They don't cross promote in all sorts of places. Let me show you an example of just a super simple cross promotion, one that I think should be in everybody's stuff, and that is Ye Old Newsletter, right? We have we just call this section the Bright Idea now. I just renamed it Binge Watch. And in our newsletter every week is sending people to our YouTube videos, right? Just get people back to the YouTube videos that we've been creating, again, to get eyeballs on them. Because even if you're not watching live, as long as I'm taking advantage of this part of the algorithm, I can get you more probable to see new stuff as it comes out. We saw when I first signed into my own YouTube homepage, it's like showing me that I'm premiering a live video. Like, great. We know that's working because I'm spending the time on the channel. So cross promote as much as possible, especially if you have an email list, because you can send people directly to the link. There's very little disintermediation, and it's going to send people to YouTube itself. We don't know for sure, because again, it's not in the paper itself, whether or not YouTube deals differently with players that are embedded on other sites versus sending people to YouTube itself. But I'm going to make a guess here, and the guess I'm going to make is that Google can show you way more ads on YouTube itself than it can in an embedded player, and thus, if you send people there, it would not be unreasonable for Google to treat that traffic a little more favorably, because they know they can make more money off of you. So in your cross promotion, send people to YouTube itself. Something to think about. In Chip, YouTube's kind enough to suggest the video again. Well, yeah, that happens. Sorry, Chip. In other platforms are actually reasonably well equipped to re-promote YouTube content. So, for example, on LinkedIn and on Facebook, when you fire up a LinkedIn post, if you have a YouTube link in it, it'll spawn a YouTube player in here. So one of the things you want to experiment with is alternating the use of native LinkedIn video itself with YouTube videos. And what you'll find, at least what I've found so far, is that they both perform about the same in terms of the number of people who are there, who see each thing. But obviously, again, putting eyeballs on YouTube means that it's entering into that user's search history. The other thing to look at is collaborations, right? The YouTube community itself is really, really strong about getting people to collaborate with each other and getting people to cross promote on each other's channels. There's a real simple example. There are a bunch of musicians that all just kind of group together, and they appear on each other's channels all the time. So let's go. Scene. This artist has done a huge number of collaborations with like Cole Rowland, Christina Schiano, etc. And each channel promotes these videos together, so they all act as kind of like a pod. If you remember the old pod marketing ideas. Same thing here. Use this to the extent that you can. Look for peer channels. So if you've got 1,300 followers on YouTube, look for other channels in your space that may or may not be competitive, and try to collaborate with them so that it's an even exchange. So people can say, okay, I get that. Why would want to work together? Me approaching somebody like this, A, it's not topically relevant. B, this person has 447,000 subscribers. They're not going to see any benefit in collaborating with me, whereas a peer channel might be able to do that. But it's a really good opportunity. Another thing we've seen people do really well is bring guests into like live stream, bring other folks into live streams and have them collaborate, and then ideally be able to cross audiences to let people do takeovers and stuff. Think about the way that a lot of people do Instagram collaborations and apply those same tactics to YouTube. So those are the tactical things you can do to improve your performance on YouTube, right? Again, we are trying to take advantage of everything that we know based on what Google has said is in the YouTube algorithm. And then we, of course, parts of this have been updated as their technologies have changed, but the fundamental architecture is the same. Focus on the watch history, focus on the language being used in search, minor demographic stuff, and then build that strategy and follow it, and just publish as much as you can. One of the things that brands do really wrong is they assume that they have to be doing like broadcast quality video. Like it has to look like a TV commercial or a Marvel cinematic experience out of the gate. It really doesn't, unless your brand makes videos, in which case it should, because otherwise it looks like you look like an idiot. But if you're not a brand that is doing multi-billion-dollar media productions elsewhere, create more. And the easiest strategy to get started is create more useful content. If you go into your customer service inbox, or you go into Quora or Reddit or ask.com or justanswer.com and just pull a list of all the how-to questions in your industry, start making videos on that. just start making videos as quickly as you possibly can, answering those questions. Another great source, we were actually talking about this earlier this week, is looking at Twitter chats, right? So Twitter chats are a fantastic source of just questions to answer. Let me pull up a spreadsheet. So I keep track of about 15 or 16 Twitter chats in the marketing space, and from all these different companies. Every single one of these things is a question that you could answer in a YouTube video, right? Like, trust is our goal as marketers. How does this fit into our content marketing strategy? Well, guess what? If you know that these are questions that people are asking in your industry, make a YouTube video. Spend 5 minutes, grab your phone, put it on a tripod so it's not the Blair Witch special, and then and answer the question and load it up to YouTube. So with that, let's open things up to questions. What questions do folks have?
Well, not so much a question, but more of a pro tip. But, Chris, you had talked about, finding these questions to answering them with a YouTube video, but then you also have transcription services such as Otter. If you're following the transmedia framework, then you can create the video and then use it a bunch of different ways for your content marketing. So you can pull just the audio and it's an MP3 and boom, now it's a podcast. Or you can pull just the text and now it's a blog post. And so, you can use a snippet and it's a social media post. And I think that starting with the video, answer the question that's a helpful thing to your customer base, do a bunch of that, and then go back and then do all of your SEO optimization. You can start to look at the analytics, but until you create the video, there's nothing to look at.
Exactly. There's that. And the other thing is that once you've got the video, it is relatively trivial to, as you say, atomize it, to start turning it into little pieces. One of the pieces of software we use Camtasia. And so after we record our podcast in StreamYard, but you can use any recording service. That doesn't matter. We'll download the file. We'll then take the file, rip the audio out, turn it into, pull the closed captions, and then I'll load the closed captions back into Camtasia. So you can see here, this is last week's podcast. I load the closed captions back into Camtasia, and now you can see the closed captions in the video itself. And then say I want to do about a minute's worth of video here with this. Export this out from Camtasia, and it will have the captions burned right into it. This then goes on to Instagram. So this is a 45 to 60 second preview that goes up with the captions burned in. It goes on Instagram and then promotes. You can promote the video. So one piece of video you can slice up into a tremendous amount of stuff as long as you've got the tools and do it in the right order. So don't let a video just sit out on its own. Like, recycle that as much as possible.
Yeah, as far as organic spread on that too, we see that a lot where, you get some of these videos where it's an hour or 2 hours worth of content, but then they'll go back and chop it all up into 5-minute chunks and throw all the 5-minute chunks out there. And a lot of times you'll get a small a clip that does spike because it answers a specific question, whereas people don't want to have to wade through 48 minutes of video to get to that chunk.
Exactly. Another thing, podcasts. If you have a podcast and you've been on a podcast and things like that, and you are not recording video at the same time, Headliner is a fantastic app. Is one that we've used a lot. You can take your podcast audio, dump it into Headliner, and then it will create a video of your audio. Now, it's not a picture of you, obviously. It has no idea what you look like, but it gives you a waveform that looks like this. And now you've got video that you can load to YouTube, right? Is it the most exciting thing to look at? No. But it allows you to take audio and turn it into video in some fashion that you can then put up on YouTube. So we have occasionally forgotten to turn on record when we make our podcast. And on those occasions, we can take the audio, run it through Headliner, and spit out video. You can do this in Adobe After Effects as well. But it's a lot more work than to let this app do it. This, by the way, also, if folks are wondering, how do you get your podcast onto LinkedIn? This is how you do it. If it's not a video to begin with, LinkedIn does not accept audio files. LinkedIn does accept video files. So take your podcast, render it like this, and now your podcast is on LinkedIn. Remember that you have a 10-minute limitation. So make it the best 10 minutes of your show.
Well, it's funny. This is a little aside. I was listening to Michelle Obama on a podcast yesterday, and she actually started her own podcast. And she was saying that one of the nice things about having a podcast is not having to do your hair and makeup anymore because it's all audio. But we're actually saying that from a marketing perspective, it's better to have video in association with your podcast purely for recording and reusing the material and assets. So you don't have to be like 100% camera ready, but just a little camera ready is probably not a bad thing.
Yep. And the last thing we'll say on video itself is the rule from David Temez of Kino Eye and Mass Art Institute is great video begins with great audio. People will watch, and he makes this example in a number of his lectures. People will sit in a bar and watch a game, on a crappy TV, like go to a bar in like South Boston. It's like the old TVs, they're not even flat screens. And people like throwing stuff at the screen. And as long as people can hear it, they are engaged, they're active. Go to another bar where there's like a wall of TVs, but no sound coming from any of them. And people look at them, every now and again like that, but then go back to other things because it's not that engaging experience.
Mm-hmm.
Make great audio. Spend the $50, $100 on a decent microphone so that your videos sound good because people will listen to it. And again, if you're turning it into a podcast, you definitely don't want to stick crappy audio into people's ears either. But that's the basics of this stuff. Get going with it.
Agreed.
All right. So if there are no other questions, we're going to roll on out of here. Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you're watching it. For more resources and to learn more, check out the Trust Insights podcast at trustinsights.ai/TI podcast and a weekly email newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Got questions about what you saw in today's episode? Join our free Analytics for Marketers Slack group at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. See you next time.